All right, we're ready to do a little paper mending on this cover of Startling Comics number 48. So what are we going to do? We are going to mend this tear with a piece of Japanese paper, which is also known as Tengujo paper. What I've done is I've torn a little piece off the size that I want. The edges are frayed. You don't cut this with a scissors or a knife. You actually tear it with your fingers to leave all these loose fibers along the edge. That's what gives it a lot of its properties in terms of the strength. I have a piece of Hollytex underneath the cover. This is so that we're going to use a glue. We don't want it to stick to anything, and then we would have to peel it off and destroy our paper. So Hollytex is a non-woven polyester cloth, essentially, and it's very fine, and the glue won't stick to it. The glue that we're using today is pure wheat starch. I buy this from Line Co, and it's archival quality. It is pH neutral, and it's really simple to mix. The instructions call to mix it 1 part to 5 with water, and then to heat it until it forms this gel. And so that's what I've done. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this gel on a brush, and we're going to hold our Tengujo paper right where we want it. So I've already placed it, I think, exactly where I want it, but let me just double check that. So the tear is here, like this, and the paper's weak going down from there and also a little bit over. So I want to sort of cheat over this way a little bit. I don't mind if the paper hangs off the end a little bit. So I think the best place for the repair is just like that. And this is probably a little bit longer than it needs to be, but I don't mind it being a little bit long in this application. Better to have a little bit extra down here and to have a really strong repair than to not have enough. So what we're going to do is, once we have this glued down, we're going to put another layer of Hollytex over it, and then so that we don't have anything sticking to the top. And then I'm going to put this back in the cold press, which, as I mentioned before, for me is my big old Seal Masterpiece 350. It's just easier for me to do that than, weights. And I showed you before that I have a couple pieces of granite that I've cut, and those work great. And I use them quite often. But for something like this, which is larger, and that I want to use, that I don't want to tie up a bunch of my countertop space, it's great to have that Masterpiece, the Seal Masterpiece, because it's out of the way, and it applies a nice, really flat. As you can see, this cover is really quite flat. I get better results with that Masterpiece than I do with weights and paper towels and all that jazz. So as you can see, I'm kind of feathering the paste out here. and making sure that the paste is kind of a gel. I'm making sure that I don't have any clumps or lumps, and I think that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and again put another layer of Hollytex on top of this, and then I'm going to place this in my cold press, and we'll check out results next time. We have the interior of the book yet still to do. So you may recall we have mold on this interior, first couple leaves, and we have this same tear that we had that we're repairing here, we have in the interior. We'll have to decide whether or not we want to deal with that. So I'm going to be disassembling this interior next and doing washing, deacidification, and we'll see how much of this mold comes up just with the wash and deacidification. And based on our results from that, we'll make a decision about whether or not we need to do anything more aggressive with the mold here. So I think it's just on the first maybe 2 or 3 leaves. And so we'll be dealing with that while this sits in the cold press. What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul. I got the results from the mending with Japanese paper here on the Startling Comics number 48. This is the cover of Noah's book that we dry cleaned and wet cleaned, bleached, photo bleached. We mended the paper, and you can see here the repair, the edge of the repair. Again, I couldn't be happier with how this has turned out. It's really just so much better condition than it was when we started. I'm going to go ahead and just trim this. Nothing sexy about it. I'm going to just trim it with a scalpel and a straight edge. And then we will put this page back into our cold press, where it will await the work that we're doing on the interior. And then we'll reunite this cover with the interior pages. And put the book back together for Noah. So I just wanted to show the results really briefly of the mending. I could try to trim that little spot in there, but I'm not trying to hide that repair. It is almost invisible, the repair. But again, we're not trying to hide it. Full disclosure is always the best practice. Noah knows we did it. Anybody he sells it to should know that it was done. And that little bit of Japanese paper there will strengthen the paper. So I'm not going to trim that little bit out. So again, this is just going back in my cold press, and it's going to wait there until we're done with the interiors, and then it'll be reunited with the rest of the book.